You are listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, where it's all about responding with confidence to the legal, financial, and personal challenges created by a disability, unexpected illness, or aging in general. Join us weekly as elder law attorneys Barbara McGinnis and Chris Johnson, along with other members of the Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning team, talk about the tools, techniques, strategies, and services that will make the elder care journey easier for everyone involved. Get ready, because aging starts now.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Aging Starts Now. I'm Debra King, one of the Elder Care Coordinators at Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning. Do you have long-term care insurance policies? Have you had trouble claiming? Today we are speaking with Brayden Winters, Communications Director for Family Solutions for Care, about paying for long-term care and using long-term care insurance. Welcome, Brayden.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here, and I look forward to talking about the long-term care.
Absolutely. We have a number of clients, and I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there that have long-term care policies. So what are the first steps to using your long-term care policy? How do we figure it out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So something that we see very common is that people know that they have a policy, or more often than not, in these situations where they're looking to use it, it's the adult children of the policyholders who are trying to assist their parents in with the goal of getting the long-term care claim filed and approved. So they often know that there's a long-term care policy or have heard that there is one, but they've never seen it. So the first step is going to be to find it, because a theme of today is really going to be talking about the importance of knowledge when it comes to these claims, of knowing exactly what is within them. And you can't do that unless you actually have that policy and are able to review it. So again, this is something common that we see. What I'm going to suggest is that if you're unable to find the policy, check in where those important documents are typically held. If it's not there, look for recurring payments to insurance companies. You can do that through bank statements or their checkbook. And if you're able to find recurring payments to these insurance companies, that would likely be premium payments, reach out to that company, confirm that there is a policy, and then request a copy of the policy from them. That way you have it and you can start to review it.
Are they going to let me get it just because I called?
No. So a lot of the time, if you have your parent, so the actual policy holder, on the line, and they are the ones to request the policy, they will send it to them. If that is not an option, then you're going to have to go through the process of submitting the power of attorney to the insurance company and getting that approved before you can request that type of documentation.
Okay. So once I get the policy, how do I know what it covers?
Right. So typically there's a schedule of benefits page. It could be called the schedule of benefits. It could just say benefits at the top. That is typically within the first 5 pages or so of the policy. And it's a really great overview of the benefits. It does not have everything on there, but it does have a good first glance information about what that will cover. And it will show things like what types of facilities, the daily benefit or monthly benefit that is kind of corresponding with those different types of care, elimination periods, just a whole plethora of things that benefits page will show you that gives you a really great head start.
And I would add, if you find that original policy, that you may want to request an updated schedule of benefits, because there may have been inflation increases or increases in coverage that are not reflected in a policy that's 10, 15, 20 years old, right?
You're absolutely right. And aside from increases to the policy, there are also decreases to the policy as well. So over time, as I'm sure you know, premiums for these policies have continued to increase. And to combat the increased premiums, insurance companies have offered essentially folks the option to reduce the amount that they're paying in premiums if they reduce the amount of coverage that they are receiving. And there are a lot of folks who chose to do that. And the old policy that they have does not reflect those changes. So making sure that you have up-to-date information is certainly very important.
So walk our listeners through when they're reading that declaration. What are some key phrases? What are they going to see on that? What are they going to learn from that page?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things, is going to be the types of facilities or the type of care that you're able to receive. So typically, you're going to see assisted living facilities, skilled nursing, and home health care services. All policies are different, and so not all of them are going to cover all three. However, newer policies do tend to cover all three. So that's going to be the first thing, is understanding what types of care you have available to you. The second is the daily benefit amount or the monthly benefit amount for each type of care. So knowing what you're eligible to receive as far as money is concerned to pay for the care that you would be receiving in each of those situations. Another big one is elimination periods. This is one that a lot of folks don't understand or have never really thought about. An elimination period is essentially a wait period. So it's the period of time where you would be in a facility or receiving care, and you're unable to receive funding from the insurance company. You're unable to receive benefits until that waiting period is over. Typically, those are going to be 90 days, but we've seen them all the way up to like 180 days. So that is certainly something to keep in mind and something to look for on those schedule of benefits.
That's really good information. So how do I get them to start paying me?
Yeah, so it's a process, and we get a lot of folks come to us who are upset because the process has not gone smoothly. And this is typically the way that I lay it out, is that a lot of the time you have these folks who bought these policies back in the late 90s or early 2000s, and they have been paying in on these policies, paying premiums for a very long time. These premiums, like we had mentioned earlier, have continued to raise year over year. So what they're paying now is quite high, and they found themselves in a position where they're currently needing to receive care, and it's time to use that policy to help in that. But they followed the rules. They've done everything that they thought they needed to do, and they were met with a denial from the insurance company. And that is extremely frustrating, as I'm sure you can imagine, for the family, for the policyholder, because ultimately they have this policy, they've been paying on the policy, they should be able to use it to get the care they need. These are things that people typically run into, and we're here to make sure that they're able to file that claim and make sure that they're able to get approved and pay for that care.
So what are some tips to advocate to get them to cover you?
Yeah, so again, the biggest thing is knowledge. It's having the policy, having updated information, understanding what you're looking at, understanding what your specific policy is going to cover, and then making sure when you are filling out things like the claims packet, when you're requesting documentation from care facilities and things like that, going through all of that documentation and just making sure that all of the dates are correct, making sure that all of the information that you have is filled out correctly. Because a lot of the time when denials are received is due to, or when delays are given, it's due to maybe those documents weren't combed through good enough and something slipped through the cracks, and that's what's causing an issue in regard to getting that claim approved.
I've seen that with some of my clients, and sometimes it's on the coordination side with the provider, that the provider is having difficulty getting approved. Have you experienced that?
Certainly, yeah. So like we had mentioned earlier, all of these policies are different. They're going to have different eligibility requirements, both for the caregivers and for the policyholder. So making sure that, again, you read through the policy and understand what type of care requirements there are, and to make sure that you're meeting them and the care provider is meeting them. Those are both huge things that a lot of the time folks don't think about because, in their mind, they've been paying for this policy. They need care. They should be able to get whatever care they need. And I agree with that, but unfortunately, that's not the way that these policies are laid out all the time.
So, and I think the other piece of that is we talked about elimination periods, but understanding what the payment limits are, right?
Correct. Yeah. So those daily benefits or monthly benefit amounts, knowing what the maximum amount you would be able to receive for that type of care. And that really goes a long way during the decision process of what type of care you want to receive, knowing how much money the insurance company would be able to cover, and knowing what, if at all, what amount would be coming out of pocket.
Does my doctor have to get involved with all of this? Because you know how hard it is to get information from doctors.
Right. Yeah. So you're going to be needing to request information, especially if you have any kind of diagnosis that would be relevant to the claim. So a big one that we see would be if there's any type of cognitive impairment. These policies are typically gonna need you to have severe cognitive impairment in order to get the claim approved on cognitive impairment. So certainly in those cases, you would have to request that documentation. You would have to get the test results and then submit them to the insurance company. And like you had said, dealing with different care providers, doctors, things like that. When you're requesting records, it can be quite a process. And it can take quite a long time. So it's important just to make sure you're doing everything correctly up front, and then you're continuing to follow up with them until you receive the documents you need.
So when would I need to call you? When would you come into play to help me get this benefit started?
Yeah, so we're here to help from the very beginning. Ideally, what we would like to do is we would like to do our free policy review with you from the very start. So when you're at a place where you have a policy and you're wanting to use it, but you have not yet made that step, we would love to do the free policy review. We're going to sit down, we're going to review that policy, and we're going to walk you through what it will cover. Again, the dollar amounts associated with that, the elimination period, the claim eligibility requirements. We're going to make sure that you understand all of that information up front. And again, that's going to help you make that decision moving forward on what type of care you want to receive. Past that point, we're also able to help with the entirety of the claim process. So if you're wanting someone to take it over, you want us to request all of those records and those documents we had discussed, we're going to do so. We're going to review them all and make sure that they're all in alignment with what the insurance company needs to see. We will then submit them for approval. Once the claim is approved, we would go into monthly management, and that is where we would be requesting documents from the care provider every month. So whether that be invoices, monthly care forms, care notes, things like that, we're going to request them, review them, ensure there are no mistakes, and then submit them to the insurance company for approval month over month, ensuring you're able to continue to receive those benefits.
Do you charge a fee for that follow-up?
Yes. So our services, it is a fee that you would pay for our services. However, that initial policy review is completely free. And during that review, we get to know you and your situation, and we'll be able to give you a quote for our services by the end of that call.
What happens if I change levels of care during this process?
Yes, so that's a great question, and this does happen from time to time. So essentially, you're just needing to start over in a sense, where you're needing to submit all of the documentation for that new facility or that new level of care, and then it would have to go through the steps of getting approved by the insurance company, and then once approved, you would begin to submit the invoices to them for reimbursement.
Do I have to go through another elimination period?
Sometimes you might. It just depends on the policy. We see this most commonly. Sometimes there will be an elimination period for home health care, and then an elimination period for assisted living or skilled nursing. And so sometimes you do have to complete those elimination periods separately. However, there are also many policies out there where if you complete one of the elimination periods, it is a lifetime. So it's completed for all levels of care.
Have you seen many joint policies, these new hybrids that work for spousal benefits?
Yeah, so certainly there are many policies with spousal benefits or with pools of money, essentially, that can be shared between the two, married individuals. These are not uncommon to see, especially now. I think they've become more popular. But yeah, those are certainly things that we see. And again, through that free policy review, if that is the case for you, that is something we would like to note and then to walk you through how that might work.
Okay, here's a challenge question. What if I didn't realize my parents had long-term care insurance? Can I go back and file in the past?
Absolutely. That is something that we love to do. So typically we're able to go up to about 2 years in the past for qualified care. But during that free policy review, we're going to mention that this is certainly a possibility, especially based on the policy that you have. We're going to ask you questions to see if you have received qualified care in the past. And then if you did move forward with working with us further, we would be requesting documentation or records from those prior care givers. We would be reviewing them and submitting them with the intention of getting retroactive benefits paid to you for that care that you had received.
So that's like found money, eh?
Yes, and it works the same for elimination period. So let's say that there's a 90-day elimination period, and you had received 90 days of care in the past. We can use those dates to satisfy that elimination period, and that just speeds up the process of getting you your benefits quicker.
Very nice, very nice. So I can see how understanding what a long-term care policy is and what it covers. And of course, here at Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law, we recommend accessing that money, those policies, as soon as possible, as opposed to saving it until you're in the nursing home. So certainly I can see where your program can help families understand when they can get started and how to get started.
Yes, and we're right along with you. We agree that using your policies sooner rather than later is definitely the way to go. And, I've spoke with many families and as a whole, FSC has spoke with many families who, they've decided time and time again to hold off on using their policies. And they say that they're waiting for a rainy day, but they don't realize that it's been raining for a while. And now is the time to start to use that policy. So certainly we agree with you on that front.
Very good. Very good. Well, I appreciate your time today, Brayden. I'm sure there's lots of other questions, and encourage families to reach out to Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law. We can give you Brayden's information, or you can reach out to him directly at Family Solutions for Care. We're going to end it today with Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning is a life care planning law firm helping families respond to the legal and financial challenges caused by chronic illness or disability of an elderly loved one. Thank you, Brayden Winters, and join us next week for another episode of Aging Starts Now.
Thank you for listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast. For more information about today's show, visit tn-elderlaw.com, click on the Free Resources tab, and then click on Aging Starts Now. You'll find the show notes there. And while you're at it, why not check out all the free resources available at tn-elderlaw.com? Document downloads, the Johnson McGinnis blog, educational videos, informative articles, helpful links, a TV show, and more. It's all there, free for the taking. If you enjoy listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, please subscribe, rate the show, or leave us a review. It's easy to do on whatever app you use to listen. We would love your feedback on the show. Aging Starts Now. We'll be back next week with more candid discussions about the challenges created by aging, disability, and unexpected illness.